Why they'll never be honest about Islamist violence. Have you ever wondered why in the wake of every Islamist terrorist attack, our media and politicians bend over backwards to make the extraordinary claim that Islamism has nothing to do with Islam? The answer is a mixture of things, of course, but the central reason is easy to understand if you think about it logically. To avoid offending morons, let's not talk about people and talk about apples instead. As you know, there are red apples, green apples, and yellow apples. Let's imagine for a second that a small percentage of green apples are poisonous and can injure and kill people. It's difficult to distinguish the toxic green apples from the other green apples, which are perfectly peaceful, law-abiding, and so forth. Now imagine that you're the public health authority whose job it is to protect the public. If your concern is solving the problem of the small minority of toxic green apples, you would immediately do a number of things. You might devote significant resources to identifying the toxic green apples and removing them from the supermarket shelves. You might commission thorough research into how and where the toxic green apples are grown. You might crack down very, very hard on anyone who knowingly participates in growing or distributing such apples. You might even say that while you are dealing with the problem of deaths caused by toxic green apples, bringing more green apples into the country is liable to worsen the public health crisis until suitable measures are identified which allow you to separate the bad green apples from the good ones. This is how you would act if your primary concern was the safety of the public. But what if you, as the public health authority, had spent the preceding decades claiming that all apples are the same? That to suggest that a small minority of green apples are potentially toxic is fear-mongering and greenophobic. What if you'd been openly encouraging unfiltered importation of green apples and actively resisted calls to thoroughly check whether such apples are in fact digestible for your citizens? What if your mantra for the last 20 years had been that anyone who believes there may be significant variations between the toxicity of different types of apples is a bigot who must be suppressed for fear of emboldening the far right? If you were in fact responsible for the fact that people were now being killed on the streets of your country by the small minority of toxic green apples, would you not do everything in your power to explain that the diversity of apples is our greatest strength? That the toxicity of green apples has nothing to do with them being green? That any doctor who suggests that the government should carefully regulate the importation of green apples specifically is a racist? The central premise of our elite consensus is that we must continue to pretend that all apples are the same, no matter how many people pay for this lie with their lives. The news doesn't just tell you what's happening, it so often tells you what to think is happening. And these days, the biggest red flag isn't what's said, it's what gets left out. That's why I use Ground News. It's the only site and app that compares coverage from across the political spectrum and highlights which stories are being ignored entirely. See for yourself at ground.news/TRIGGERnometry. Their blind spot feed is one of my favorite features. It surfaces around 20 stories a day that are being overlooked by either the left or the right. It's a simple but powerful way to track media bias in real time. Like this. NIH scientists recently published a declaration criticizing Trump's cuts to public health research. That's a major move, and yet only 2% of the coverage came from right-leaning outlets. A new study found that 2024 saw the most armed conflicts globally since 1946, a staggering statistics. But you would have missed it if you'd only read left-wing news sources. Ground News gives you the full picture. Headlines, ownership, bias ratings, and context. So you can actually understand what's going on, not just react to what you're told. Head to ground.news/TRIGGERnometry for 40% off their Unlimited Advantage plan, the same one we use, and start thinking for yourself.